To Vision Plus.
My dad passed away about 10 or 11 years ago, and my sisters and I took care of him for 2 years. And so watching that very strong person that you're used to taking care of everything and seeing them, his mind was perfectly clear until about a week before he passed away, but over a 2-year period, just physically more and more not being able to take care of things. That's very hard because he was always so proud and such a private person. But it allowed us time to spend together and to maybe revisit some things that we wouldn't have had a chance to and come a little bit closer. And about 3 years ago, I've worked for myself for 20-something years in different capacities, and about 3 years ago, my son, well, I was on the phone with him, and he told me that he had left a friend's house, or had left our house, he was headed to a friend's house, and that he talked to me later. And I hung the phone up, walked into a store here in town to meet my sister. I was in there maybe about 10 minutes, and I heard just the traffic report on the radio that said there's been a bad wreck in North Limestone County. Take a different route. It's in front of this store, take a different route. And I looked at my sister and I said, that's Trey. And she thought I was crazy. And I said, no, that's Trey. And I couldn't get him on the phone. So I finally found the number of the store, called, and I said, I've heard there's been a really bad wreck. Can you just tell me what kind of car it was? And they said it was a young kid named Trey. If you know his mom, call her. And I said, this is his mom. We found out later that there was an EMT who had gotten off work early to go and mow his yard that wasn't supposed to be there. He worked in Huntsville, was in North Limestone County where my son was at, had med flight and the fire department a block away in his phone. There was a nurse at the gas station that he just pulled out pumping gas. So everything was in place to save him. He had a ruptured aorta, fractured skull, collapsed lung, leg broken 3 places, ear ripped off, and physically he should not have survived. They were very wonderful at saving his life. The thing that we weren't aware of at the time was that he also suffered traumatic brain injury. And that was never really addressed. So we have dealt for the past 3 years with everything that goes along with traumatic brain injury. He has lost every friend that he has. As hard as it is to watch someone like my father, who has been in charge his whole life, lose physical capabilities, to watch a 19, 20-year-old who has been in martial arts for 10 years, could do splits both ways the day before the wreck, not be able to lift his head out of bed the next, and all of the just emotional trauma that goes along with that. It's been a really rough road. With that, there's been a lot of praise and a lot of joy that's come out of it. But for him, a 19-year-old that's supposed to be out on his own, taking care of himself, enjoying the world, starting his life, and has been sitting at my house for a year and a half, took himself off of driving. When the wreck happened, he had no insurance. He just turned 19, had fallen off insurance. It was right before you could keep them on there. And he was waiting to get into college. So he went 2 years without having any medical attention, and the issues that he had with his knee and a couple other things, the doctors told him there's nothing was wrong. And so he suffered with pain for those for 2 years. He grew a very strong distrust of medical community, so it's hard for me to get him to the doctor. Now, luckily, during that time, we did find a homeopathic doctor that has helped him, and we've seen steady increase. And me looking back at where he was when we started, he can't see it as well, but me looking back, he's made such amazing strides. But as a caregiver, we were actually looking for a way for him to volunteer, for me to work with families going through what we'd been through. And we couldn't find what we were looking for. I started to start my own nonprofit. And I had researched exchanges for about 10 years just because of my experience. I had owned Coupon magazines a couple different places. I'd worked for a division of Southern Living magazine, and I'd always done trade. And I would see businesses that had resources, other businesses that needed it. And what was missing was people were just afraid to spend the cash, to let go of the cash. So I thought there's got to be a different way. And I started researching exchanges. So about the time that I was looking to launch a nonprofit, I thought, you know, really, I can build a way for nonprofits to make money within the exchange, and I can help a lot more people. So that's what we've done. We actually have a nonprofit who launched. It's a single mom who had been working with single moms for 7 years. She wanted to launch a nonprofit and didn't have the funds to do it herself. So with the ways that we had created within the exchange for her to earn income, she paid for her accountant, her attorney, her videographer, her web design, her logo, her grant writer, her business cards. It cost her $4.80 to launch her nonprofit. So with that, the reason for all of my businesses are to help the community. The next thing that came was the HuntsvilleGrapevine.com. It's a national community site. There's separate sites in different cities. We purchased the license to this area because I was hoping to have something for my son to do from home. And when I saw that he couldn't do that, I decided to take it over and do it myself. And with that, once again, we allow nonprofits on there free of charge. My vision for it is for every nonprofit, every support group, every church in the area to have a presence on it so that when people are going through situations, one of the most frustrating things for me is nobody could tell me where to get help. Nobody could tell me what to plug into. And so my vision, I just don't have the time to do all of it, but my vision is to create one central place where people can find all that, where they can find the support groups and the resources and whatever they need, just a community. With that, we've also launched a discount card that nonprofits and organizations can sell as fundraisers. They sell for $25, the organization keeps $10, so if they sell 1,000, they make $10,000. The person who purchases it just goes to the website, grapevinediscounts.com, to see what business is on it and then take it into that business for a discount. We're launching it with over 70 businesses already participating. Gigi's Cupcakes, Cost Cutters Hair Salons, Zenberry, Minuteman Press. You get at least a 15% discount at all those places and you use it over and over again throughout the year. So it's kind of a win-win-win for everybody. It's free for the businesses, the nonprofits make money, and people that purchase it save money. So we're looking at different ways to help the community and to grow it and to build it. So me as a caregiver, you know, I kept hearing you're supposed to take care of yourself, and I kept thinking, oh yeah, I'll do that later. 2 years, 3 years. My son's rec will be 3 years on the 24th. Up until last month, I had not had a day off in 3 years. I was either working until 2 or 3 in the morning, or the rare times that I did have a few hours free, I was taking him somewhere because he wasn't driving, or taking him to a doctor's appointment or whatever. And about a month ago, I just kind of decided I didn't feel like doing that anymore. I don't think I consciously decided. I had just exhausted myself. And I realized that I have got to pull back. I've got to take some time for me. I've got to do some things that I enjoy, because I can't keep taking care of him if I'm not taking care of myself. So I just want to encourage everybody, whatever situation you're in as caregiver, make sure that you do that before you get to that point. And if there's anything that I can do, or if anybody's interested in volunteering to help us get resources on the Grapevine for other people to find, I would love to have the help. So y'all let me know. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'll stay here. Let's take.
Okay, next I want to hear from Jean Patterson. Jean has been a friend of ours for over 20 years.
Well, I'm really a caregiver all the time. I love people. I love helping people. And from beginning, from Chuck and I got married, 24 years will be this next March. Anyway, his mother was in a nursing home, and that's when I really, I guess, got close to people, older people, and of course I'm older too now. But anyway, she was in a nursing home, and she had her little hands all up and her little feet withdrawed. So Chuck and I, we hadn't been married long, but we took her in our home and loved her very dearly, and she loved us. We had to put her in the bathtub and all this, but you know, God gave us such a joy over this, and it gave us a challenge, because he never had nobody to love his mother like we loved her. And then now I've got a son that's got cancer, or had cancer, because he's of the throat. They've took his tonsils out and all, and we've had to really, he needs encouragement, and we've had to try to encourage him. Plus he can't eat because they took his part of his tongue and his tonsils out, and he had cancer in his throat there. But he still says, you know, one day that God gave him life, because he was about to die. And I know that God saved him many years ago. But to be a caregiver, you've got to be supportive. You can't be pitiful. You got to be strong and love and share with all your love, because I mean that's what it's all about. And like Deanna said, cancer is something I hate. I just said I hate it. But my son, his daddy died with cancer. But Mark is one day he had surgery in Birmingham, and came home 3 days, and he like to die. The doctor didn't quite fasten the little vessel up there, and he completely went out on the floor and lost 4 pints of blood. And he said, "Mother, I looked around, I didn't see no lights, and I knew, well, God wasn't ready for me because I didn't see no lights." And I said, "That's right, son." And I said, "But I want to tell you one thing. That gives you a chance to even serve God more, and you help other people." And he said, "I know that." So I think we all ought to be really loving, caring, and with all the corruption and things that's going on in the world, you'll stand out. I mean, you'll stand out because a lot of people don't care. And we need prayer, and we need that. People need prayer. I just throw my hand on them and pray them, don't we, Tony? And that's, to me, that's what giving and loving and caring is all about, one another. God put us here, and He meant for us to share. So, to me, caregivers is something special. And that's why God made me a nurse. But that's about it.
I've been a nurse for wow, since I was 19. And I did have my own business 24/7 and take care of babies. I call my babies, you know, because they are. And so then I was, I really enjoy it with work with all my patients, my doctors and stuff like that. And I never have any complaint. But I was proud of what I was doing, because I think that when you do something like that, you feel rewarded, you know? Yeah, you feel rewarded. And that's what we need. If everybody would share a little bit and just a little bit of love for everybody, we'd be in good shape, you know? But I feel sorry for those people that just don't even believe in God. Amen. So, and that is one thing they can make it them like actually they don't exist. You know, you ask, do you believe in God? No, I don't believe in God because I know God don't do everything I want to. I said, why? Because you don't follow His words. You know, you got to follow Him. You know, if you don't follow God or Jesus Christ, you're not gonna go anywhere. And another thing, my reason I became a Christian, I was 17 when I became a Christian. And then I decided to went to school, nursing school, you know. So I thought I could make a good one, and I did. I worked for 27 years, you know. And I'm just so proud of it, and I work with quite a few doctors over here. By the way, I'm working with Dr. Neely right now. He's in neurology, but I'm watching his daddy. I'm taking care of his daddy. He said, I know, Adelita, you retired. You're not working anymore. Yes, but I want you to do me a favor. And the only person I can trust is you. I said, well, I can say no. Because, you know, you can't turn the backs of your friends.
Dr. Charles Patterson.
I'll tell about my experiences as receiving care. Now, I've been a physician for over 50 years. But when I was 9, I was riding my bike down the road at dusk, and a car ran into me head on and crushed my leg, and I ended up in the hospital, and the legs up there and all kind of stuff and wires and things. And I was by myself. My parents were out of town, so my grandparents stepped in and filled the gap there for them. But it looked like they had to do a little bit more for me that they could do in Athens, Ohio, so they transferred me to Columbus. And I was in a fracture bed for many, many months there. But I really appreciated the people that came in to see me, friends that I didn't even know stopped in. They brought me little model airplanes to build, and I couldn't move. I mean, I was tied down there. But then some of the nurses would bring me sandwiches at night, cheer me up. And then when I got out of that, they put a cast on from my big toe to up here, solid, like a turtle. And I had a little hole down here in the cast where I could eat a little bit. But I was completely helpless. I couldn't even turn over. But I did manage to get a skate fastened to my toe, and I could scoot around the floor. But people would take care of me. They'd stop in and chat with me, and that made me feel good. So I appreciate a caregiver. The other time was when I had the plane crash, and I survived it. Well, you're not supposed to survive a plane crash, but I was in the Huntsville Hospital, and I was with a cast from the leg here and a cast there. I just couldn't move anything. And people would stop in and cheer me up. And one time I was kind of desperate there. I couldn't get the nurses to come in. I put the button on, they didn't answer me. And I was on the medical staff there, and they ignored me. And I finally picked up the phone and told them I was in room such and such, got an emergency. They ignored me. So finally, the chief of staff walked in the room, and he got me the necessary implements that I needed that day. So, but needless to say, that urinal came in awfully handy.
Well, so much to say. Lots been said about giving care and kind of the reasons behind it and how to go about it. My experience, I guess, and what she was referring to is when my dad was diagnosed with renal failure and had some other problems, heart problems and so forth, we found ourselves at his home with about a dozen medicine bottles, some from a previous doctor that had prescribed some and some from the current doctor. And so there was a process of basically sorting through all of the different medications, trying to figure out what he needed and at what time, which ones needed to be taken with food or not with food, et cetera. Just all the details that go along with it. And what we did was, fortunately on the discharge, he was given a list of all of his current medications. So we just went through the list, and I think we wrote A, B, C, D, or what have you. We identified each one, and then we went to the bottle and wrote that same letter. I think it was numbers, but at any rate, letters or numbers on each bottle. Because the other thing that was difficult was because when you look at the bottle, first of all, the printing the font is usually really small. And a lot of the names sound sort of similar, and when you're looking at them, especially if you don't have real good light or whatever, it's kind of difficult to tell what medicine is what. And then there's I guess the technical name for it, and then the brand name for it. So the same medication may be called two different things. So it was kind of confusing. So we went through, we identified them all, and then we wrote that letter on each bottle, and then we went from there and got it's basically a pill dispenser that had Monday or Sunday through Saturday, and I think it had 3 or 4 times a day on it. And so we just went through the list, found the bottle, put the correct pill in each little slot so you could load up a week, and that way it kind of helped him, especially as he was starting out, I guess, to get used to which pills to take on which day. And there was, it was new to us, it was new to him. There's a lot of discovery and figuring out things. It can get overwhelming sometimes. So for me, it was easy to just kind of take it bit by bit. If you didn't understand what a medication was or what have you, we would call the doctor or leave a message, wait for him to call back, just accept that's the process and try to figure it out, stay calm and do the next thing on the list. A lot of people have said some good things. Obviously, taking care of yourself. You can't give care if you're not in condition to do so. There's a lot of other things that I've heard this evening that sound, helpful. One thing that came to mind, I noticed one of the pieces of literature we were given was about depression. My experience has been, you know, if somebody has a broken leg or a particular condition or so forth, especially one that's obvious, it's kind of easy to deal with that. And I think anybody with probably even just almost a stranger or acquaintance, but certainly with a loved one, would certainly go out of their way to help that person. You know, it's easy to put someone else first when you understand the situation, but sometimes with things like depression, you know, the person might look okay and they might, for the most part, you know, be going to work and doing certain things, but, you know, it's still they're suffering from something in a real way, and it can be very frustrating because, like I say, the person looks okay, but you don't, you still have to be mindful of it, and giving care comes in a lot of different ways, I think. And, you know, recognizing that we all need care also, you know, that it's not just a one-way street, that, you know, treating people as you would want to be treated, and trying to be patient, and if you get overwhelmed, I guess, take a break and go to a different room or what have you, but those have been some of my experiences.
What each of you have is a program that called Joy in Caregiving that you can take with you. It has 7 points that you can learn, that I've learned, that you can learn from. 2, one of the things, if it's somebody like my dad who had Alzheimer's, in taking care of him, one of the things we learned is if you put together a scrapbook, maybe you could go back on the records and find out and it's amazing how many records you can find, like the newspaper of the day they were married, and you have that put in a scrapbook, and maybe pictures of your parents or your loved ones when they were married, and even though they don't remember what they ate last week or did last week or today, they may remember things that happened 20, 30, 40, 50, however many years ago. So if you will take pictures of them when they were young, when their children were little, and make a scrapbook, they can tell you stories of those days. My dad was they called him a singing teacher back in the olden days. He would go from church to church to church. Not only was he a preacher and a farmer, but he taught people singing, he taught the shape notes and taught singing. Well, he had Alzheimer's for several years, dementia. I don't even know if we knew it was called Alzheimer's. And Tony and I would go out there to their home and have church for them on Sunday, usually Sunday afternoon. And so he had always been the one that led the singing anywhere he was and sang all the time. He and my mother had a quartet, and they'd go around to churches and sing. Now, he hadn't said a word in several years, and we started singing, Standing on the Promises, and he started singing with us. Every verse, every word, every verse, he knew that from beginning to end. And it was so amazing. It was the last time I ever heard his voice, because Christmas of that year, he had to go back to the hospital, and I said, God, if you can't make him well, just take him home. And he passed away that Christmas Day. So we've had some fortunate things and some sad things that have gone on, as each family has. I always say that Tony and I had 25 wonderful years of marriage, not bad out of 54. But we had some experiences where other people helped us in caregiving. Tony and I were covering the Indianapolis 500 when the pace car hit the photographer's stand. We were covering it for the television station I was working at. And the driver of the car, he had been driving around, John Glenn, the astronaut, was in the car, and Tony Hallman, that owned a racetrack, and different people. And Chris Schenkel, who was ABC News at the time, and I worked for ABC Station. Well, Tony fell on the hood of the car, bashed his face in, his eye was dripping down here, and they didn't take him to the hospital right then, but they thought they did, and he was at a first aid station. And so I asked, but then they came and they asked where he was, and we said he's over there, and they said, I thought that man was taken to the hospital. So they got him in the helicopter, not room for me, because he was in the that bed that they take. But I had the car and 350,000 people, and I had no clue because I never watched where he parks the car. But I just remember, oh yeah, it was by a tree, because I asked the policeman, could you please help me find the car, because my husband went to the hospital. He said, little lady, there's 350,000 people, and each one has their own car. So no, I can't help you. But I remembered about the tree, so I got in the line, and miracle of miracles, there's 16 car wide going down the highway, because they turned all of the cars going one direction. So I barely got into and then I thought, I have no clue where the Methodist Hospital is. But I went on down, and would you believe, like a miracle, there it was on the same side of the street where I was. Now, that was back in the olden days when I wore false eyelashes on television, and as I was crying, they were sliding down my face, so I really looked wonderful. But Tony, the doctor that took him out of the helicopter, said, are you okay? Can you tell me anything? You have anything to say to me? And he said, so the doctor bent very close to Tony. Tony said, when I got up this morning, I put clean underwear on. That doctor said, I don't know what we're going to find, because his eyes hung down here. He said, but you're going to walk out of this hospital. And he did. My brother and his wife came up to Indianapolis and brought us home. But it was so wonderful in that place. People came from out of the woodworks to help us. Now I wish I'd have taken some of the money they offered. But it was so incredible. But we are caregivers, and we are caretakers, I guess you would call it. And we want to give each one of you one of these booklets if you'd like to have it, Joy in Caregiving. And I appreciate Thaddeus Brooks taking time out of his busy schedule to come over and help us with the program. And I'm glad that you joined us too. I'm Bonnie Libhart, and I do want you to know Hebrews 12:2, what it says is that Jesus found joy in what he knew was coming, but also he knew that he was going, even though he was going to the cross, that he was going to have joy after going to the cross. So we go to the cross every time we're caregivers, but God finds a way to find joy in the caregiving.